Hello and welcome to Let's Go. Today I'm going to be showing you how to change your Ninebot Max's tyre with a few simple tools. Let's get started. So some of the simple tools we're going to be using today are Allen keys, spanners, some clamps, and if you've got a vise it's going to be a little bit easier for you. A flathead screwdriver to pop out the bungs, some tyre levers, a pump, and maybe even a socket set. So at this point we actually want to make sure that our scooter is nice and off the ground on a sturdy table, something like that. So we've got free access to the front wheel, or the rear wheel if we're doing that. We're going to start by unplugging these two and then peeling back the sticker to get to the screw in there. To open this up for the first time, it is quite sticky, so hairdryer or a heat gun just to help soften the adhesive behind it. But I'm just going to go ahead and peel that back like so. As you can see, we have the third screw just in there. And they are 3mm Allen keys. Great, all three are out. Now we're going to go around the other side and do that. Okay, so all 6 bolts are now out. It's essentially snap these covers away, just like so. So to unhook the brake, we don't need to worry about anything here. We're simply going to take this bolt off, and it's a 10mm. Now that we have the brake free, we're going to undo 1 bolt there and then 1 bolt on the back there. 15mm bolts. There we go, and the wheel is now free. So now we have the wheel off, I'm going to take this time just to clean up a bit around here so that I can inspect the bearings and all the components at the same time. If you want to do some maintenance at this point, it's a perfect opportunity to do so. So we want to take off the actual brake rotor because it's going to spin otherwise. If it's your first time doing so from the factory, it's going to have a lot of gunk built up here, so it's going to be very, very difficult to get hold of. So my recommendation would be to get some sort of a wrench or something to hold on to this side, as you can see here, to leverage it and then twist it until it is loose and out. At this point we can take a look at the brakes and just make sure that they're in good order. There's enough material on the pad. Okay, so the brakes rotor is now off. We're just going to inspect the inside bearing. Just make sure everything is in order there. It looks absolutely perfect to me, no issues. Get a little bit of rust around here, but that happens. It's not a big deal. You can just get a bit of sandpaper if you want to and sand it down. But as long as the inside is showing good signs of wear, it's absolutely fine. Right, so at this point you want to take note of which way the wheel rotates. So on the brake, if it's facing you, the wheel is rotating right. We want to make sure that this one is in the same orientation when we put it on. You can't miss it. It will say rotation and then an arrow. I'm going to go ahead and release the air. Okay, so the air is released from the tyre. What we want to do is find a direction that we're going to be pushing the wheel or the tyre out. Little trick is make sure we've got some water with some soap in there, washing up liquid, just something to lubricate the edges here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take the wheel off of the rim, and to do so it's advised to have some clamps such as this to be able to separate it. There is going to be quite a tight seal here, and these just help push the rubber down so you can get your tools in and hook it round. So the way to do that is on one side we're going to have a bit of cloth like that so we don't damage the rim. This is going to be resting up against the actual rim itself, and then this bit is going to be pushing the rubber inwards. So be sure to hold both sides. If you've got a vise, it's going to be a little bit easier because it will push from both sides anyway. So we're just going to slowly clamp it down until we see the rubber separate. So you can see just in here that we can now get a tool inside. I'm just going to keep working it round until we can get it loose out of there. And like you see here, just use the shaft if you can as leverage without damaging the threads. Perfect. So it's one part of the wheel out. Now we just need to squeeze it from the other side. And that's the other side loose. We'll just do that on the other side just to be sure. And it's loose. And what we want to do now is just inside the tyre, we want to push the wheel out that way, and we want to bring the tyre this way. Just want to hook it from the back and push it out just like so. And we have one tyre off the rim. So here's the old tyre and here's the new tyre. As you can see, this one has more of a flat area. As it pumps up and it wears in, it will round a little bit. Okay, so the reason why the rotation is important is because of the tread pattern. It's designed in such a way that it pushes water out to the sides as you're going forward. So it does that through these channels. So you're going that way and the water will go this way. With it being a new tyre, it's going to be a bit more firm. So we just want to be that little bit extra careful. Slides on, not a problem. Right, so we've now popped the tyre through onto one side. We need to get this edge inside there. It's going to be a bit difficult if you don't have the right tools. Fortunately, you can buy some cheap tools. So we've got these 15 kilogram clamps here that we can use just to clamp the tyre together, to squish the tyre, to make it easier to manoeuvre about. we go. There we go. So it's just about prying it round and hopefully getting it in as you go. These things do come in handy. Release those. And we're just gonna make sure we squeeze the tire, make sure it fits in. Always comes in handy to have another pair of hands. So at this point we're going to go ahead and pump it up, make sure that the air stays in there. Sometimes it can leak through the sides and you've just got to mangle it or manipulate it to do so. So the only thing that I'm concerned about is this part here. So we shall see. The tyre is now completely seated within the rim and I've blown it up to 40 psi. I usually go a bit higher, but as it's a new tyre I just want to give it a little bit of little less. I did have a little bit of problem trying to get the bead come through. That happens with tyres, especially when you're only doing it at home. If you've got a car or a friend with a car, use their tyre inflation kit, just the compressor, to get air in there as quickly as you can to seal it off, and then eventually after many times of letting the air out and then pumping it back up again, the bead will then finally come through. So I had to take it out to the car, just give it a blast of air to make sure that there is air staying in there. It popped one side and then I could use the foot pump to keep blowing it up and then letting it down again. Other than that, let's get on to putting the wheel back on the scooter. So now we have the new tyre on, it's time to pop the brakes back in, as you can see here. Give it a good spin, make sure it all spins freely, and then you have a little lug just here. That corresponds with this lug just here, so this doesn't move and the wheel does. These are actually flat on two sides and that allows you to slot in. So we're not going to tighten everything down fully, we're just going to snug it up so that we can test it. Now to pop the brake cable back on. So it's a square hole and then we've got a square peg just there inside there. I found the easiest way to pop this back on was to rest it up against there, get the nut on it, and once we screw it all the way down to the end, once it gets down to the end there, we'll try and position this in such a way that it latches on. So as you've just seen me do that, to get the brake back on, if you're having a little bit of trouble trying to line it up over here, just release the locking nut here and then lower this all the way down so this fits on there a little bit better. So we're just going to tighten this back up, and this will actually adjust the sensitivity of your brakes. Make sure you get your brakes to where you want them before you tighten it up. So we'll spin the wheel and then press the brake. You can adjust these when you are out as well. So just a little bit more for me. Perfect. And then we're going to go ahead and pop on the locking nut, or the locking brake nut. At this point, get 14mm spanner and a 8mm. You can hold this into place and then tighten. Brilliant. So that's all that done. So now we're just going to go ahead and tighten up the main bolts. So next thing we're going to do is pop our covers back on. You can't get these wrong. One will say R for right and one will say L for left. And they just click back into place like so. We then go ahead and get our 3mm Allen key. Pop your bungs in place to stop the water getting in. And that's one side done. I'll do the other side and we'll see you in just a moment. And there you have it. That's how you fit a brand new wheel to your Ninebot Max. A little bit of extra work needed doing it by hand. Ideally you would want a machine or a second pair of hands to help you. But can be done. I want to say a big thank you to Kickmotion for sending me out these parts, and I'll leave their link in the description below. Thank you very much for watching. See you in the next one.